At the edge of a pond, in the middle of a forest, Margaret's daisies glowed. To keep them glowing, Margaret pulled away weeds from their roots. She cupped pond water in her hands, then poured it over the soil. Finally, she blew on her flowers, and her breath made the petals unfurl and brighten. During the day, Margaret lived in a house on a hill above the forest. She read books, she made tea, she ate sandwiches. Really, she was waiting. Each night she walked down the hill from her house and visited her flowers. She took care of them under the light of the moon. Then, when the work was done, she waited for her mother to appear. On a night with a cloud-covered moon, Margaret sat next to her daisies in the dirt, waiting. A breeze tickled Margaret's cheek. Her mother stood in the clearing, glowing bright like the daisies. She floated towards Margaret. The first time her mother visited the clearing, Margaret tried to embrace her. But this time, she remained still as her mother sat beside her. "They called again today," Margaret said. Her mother reached out as if to touch Margaret's face. Margaret pretended to feel the warmth of her mother's hand. "They're moving in soon," Margaret said. "They seem nice." She pulled out a piece of grass from the ground. "I changed the locks," she said, "just in case he comes." Her mother remained quiet. Margaret twisted the blade of grass between her fingers. "Do you think he knows?" she asked. "About us?" Her mother shook her head. Margaret placed the blade of grass on a hard patch of dirt and pressed it out flat. "I bet you feel free." Her mother smiled. Her smile tugged at the parts of Margaret's chest that ached sometimes, that made her want to lie down and stare at the sky until the whole world blurred. The sky shifted from dark blue to gray. Birds twittered. Her mother faded. "I'm sorry about the house," Margaret said, "but we're still going to be together." Her mother stretched her transparent arm. A breeze caressed Margaret's cheek. Then her mother faded until it was only Margaret in the clearing and her daisies that kept on glowing. As the afternoon sun entered Margaret's living room, she pulled her blanket over her head. She ignored her aching back. Hardwood floors weren't meant for sleeping, but the movers had already taken the furniture, and this was better than sleeping in the dirt. There was banging at the front door. Margaret froze. The doorknob twisted back and forth. Metal scratched metal. When the doorknob didn't turn and open, the scratching stopped. After a moment, Margaret crawled to her window and looked out at the front yard. The new owners weren't supposed to move in for another week. Maybe the real estate agent had come to pick up the keys. She leaned forward, peeking further out the window. A silver sports car revved its engine, then sped away. It left tire marks in the grass. Her stepfather. She knew he might come. It was once his house too. But it had been over a year since the house was put up for sale. A year since he'd been forced to move out. Margaret had hoped he'd moved on. Well, he wouldn't be able to get in anymore. She smiled. A stack of envelopes sat on the kitchen countertop, unopened. These were addressed to Margaret. Thick envelopes meant acceptance letters, she had overheard her classmates say. Margaret's fingers twitched. The ends of them became warm and glowed a faint green. A brown cactus sat in a pot next to the letters. Margaret touched the pot. Her fingers glowed brighter. She willed the light to move from her fingers to the pot and the plant within it. She waited a few moments, but the cactus remained withered. Margaret walked past other dead plants on her way back to the living room. She sat on the floor and picked up the book lying next to her, titled Practical Magic for the Skeptic at Heart. That night, Margaret hurried down the hill, her book in her hand. When she arrived in the clearing, Margaret's stomach lurched. Hunched over her daisies was a white rabbit, its face illuminated by the glow of the blooms. It sniffed with its pink nose, then bit into a flower stem with its tiny teeth. No! Two dark eyes glowed. The rabbit stuffed the flower in its mouth and scurried away. Petals and stems were scattered around the grass. Margaret held the pieces in her palm. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I hope it didn't hurt." But Margaret reminded herself she could breathe life into these flowers. They would grow again. She leaned over and blew on the flowers. The torn stems shuddered. Yellow centers reformed and were soon surrounded by white petals. They glowed once more. As long as her daisies bloomed, Margaret would be able to see her mother again. She sat on the ground and kept her eyes open in case another animal decided to stop for a snack. An hour passed, then 2. Still, her mother had not arrived. The rising sun warmed her face. Margaret yawned and stretched. She breathed in the scent of the earth. When a dragonfly touched Margaret's nose and she blinked awake, she thought she might be dead. Where her daisies had been, she found a pile of dried leaves and stems and dirt. She picked up a stem. It drifted away in the breeze. She leaned over, took a deep, shaky breath, and let it out over what was left of the flowers. They did not regrow or glow as they always had since they had first appeared 3 months before on the night Margaret lost and then found her mother again. Her breaths became whispers. "Are you a ghost?" Margaret yelled and fell backwards. A boy with large, round eyes blinked at her. He wore a knit hat in the color orange. The bauble on top of it shifted with the wind. "I thought most ghosts lived in houses," he said. "Is this where you live?" "No," Margaret said. She brushed dirt off her shirt. It smeared deeper into the fabric. "Oh, I get it. You're visiting a friend." "No," Margaret said again. "I promise I didn't do that." He pointed to the daisies, or what was left of them. "I only picked one." Margaret rose to her feet. "My name is Casey. I'm 10 years old. I have a pet iguana. My favorite color is sage green, and my second favorite color is traffic cone orange." The way he stood there, with his eyes wide, his hands twitching. It caused Margaret's rage to flow out like an exhale. I thought if I told you facts about me, it might make it harder for you to want to hurt me, he said. He played with the bauble on his hat. Margaret didn't understand why he wore it. It was hot and humid, and already sweat trickled down her forehead. She wiped it with the back of her hand. Poltergeists can cause real damage, Casey said, but a spirit probably can't. Which one are you? Margaret rolled her eyes. She turned away and knelt into the dirt. She took a deep breath. Well, I tried to take one Daisy, but when I did, they all died all at once, Casey said. He pulled at the edges of his hat. It was his fault that the flowers were dead. My grandma knows where I am, he said. She'll come get me. He stumbled backwards over a tree root. Margaret paused. He was a child. He didn't know how important these flowers were. Margaret examined her hands. Her veins glowed a bright green, then faded to their normal color. She could bring the flowers back. She could. She would. She pressed her hands into the earth. You have dirt all over you. Margaret ignored him. Maybe she needed to think about her mother. Her mother was kind and gentle, and when you saw her, your shoulders would drop and you'd forget what it was you were so worried about. Emily's here somewhere. I can feel her. Margaret opened her mouth, then shut it. Her mother loved daisies. There had been a vase of daisies in her bedroom at all times. Her mother would spray water on them with a silver perfume bottle. She spoke to them as if they were also her children. The last vase in her room had pink daisies that turned yellow as they dried, because Margaret forgot to take care of them. Casey's voice faded into the background. Margaret's hands glowed bright. She tried to make the glow in her hands travel into the dirt, willed it to move to the pile of dead daisies. One stem dangled in the wind. A single white petal held onto it. The petal glowed for a moment, then shriveled up. The pond water behind her smacked. Margaret turned. A giant bubble gurgled in the middle of the pond. When the ripples cleared and Margaret still hadn't seen Casey, she ran to the edge and rushed in. The water was warm. She slipped a few times on rocks, shut her eyes, and swam. The silence underwater stretched. Weeds brushed Margaret's skin. Her hand caught onto fabric, Casey's t-shirt. She dragged him onto the grass. She slapped him on the back until he coughed out pond water. "Why did you do that?" she asked. He curled into the fetal position, holding his orange hat against his chest. "Hey," Margaret said. She put a hand on his back. He stopped shivering. "Where does your grandma live?" His eyes blinked hard. He sat up straight. "My grandma has magic powers. She can make flowers grow even in winter." Now Margaret's eyes widened. "Show me," Margaret said. The boy's eyes widened again. Are you going to haunt me if I don't? No, Margaret said. She paused. Maybe.